Go.
Hi guys, hope everyone's okay. So we're going to be talking about the pull of popularity and why we want people to like us all the time. And there's quite a lot to discuss in this talk we're going to do. So I'm going to hand over to one of my other people to start it off. Just to hear their view on what they think about it, and then I will share a little bit about mine after. But who wants to go first, guys?
Chris, it's your turn.
It's a long time ago. Popularity. I guess it all starts at quite an early age when you become aware of yourself, and then who these other young little people are that are not so little then, but they're your height and not adults. And then it starts in school where people start to be, oh, do you want to be my best friend? This kind of stuff. And you get these little groups start, and then people are either in those groups or they're not in those groups. And yeah, I don't have any early recollections particularly of that, except I was fairly good at sports and football and stuff like that. So when it came round to picking sides and you lined up against the wall, and I was always either the person doing the choosing or the first one chosen.
So you didn't need to fight for popularity.
I didn't have to kind of work very hard at it really in the early ages. And then you go to secondary school, and by that time I kind of started forging my own kind of where I wanted to be going kind of thing. I was quite early. And popularity wasn't really much of an issue for me either there, because I was playing table tennis when it got to like 13 or 14, I was playing for the county, and everyone knew that. So it was like they could all go and play rugby if they wanted or whatever. But I wasn't really bothered by it. It was just like, yeah, go for it, enjoy. And I just kind of was sort of on the side really, but quite happy to be there. So I don't really have any particular recollections of being in the crowd. There wasn't any overarching desire or need for me to be, and there was no social media.
How do you feel about that now, Dad? How do you feel like in this day and age of how do you feel about popularity now at your age?
Well, I think it's a huge problem for young people today, because I used to walk to the bus stop from the Watford Grammar School. I used to walk up to the town and catch the bus, and I used to walk with a guy that I didn't really mix with at school. I don't think he ever got a B the whole time he was at school. It was all A's.
Wow.
And I kind of, he was like almost someone you couldn't really have a conversation with. He was quite awkward socially, unless you were talking physics equations or chemistry. It was like pretty, or maths. It was a pretty dull conversation. Not that they were exciting, but you couldn't really have he didn't have any experience of anything else apart from academy, academedia or whatever it is.
Academia.
So, yeah, so it's easy for you to say, isn't it? But anyway, so and he wasn't in the in crowd. I wasn't in the in crowd. We just walked to the bus stop. But nowadays, like my school, I caught the bus, got home, and that was the end of it. That was like school ended. And my school was 4 miles away from my home. So there was no one who lived around me. There was one guy that lived around me that went to Watford Grammar as well, but yeah, he was in another group, another class. So I was, and that was off. Like that life at school was off until the next day. Whereas today they're all on social media all the time, so the conversations continue just without any opportunity for people to find their own, to think and do their own thing. And on Instagram or something, you know, like, oh, you know, you'd be a message now, like, oh, I've just had 250 likes on that picture I took, and you know, blah blah blah, or whatever. I can imagine what's going on, and there's this adrenaline rush and this dose of endorphins every
Yeah.
time they're successful in getting that recognition, and it becomes like the goal of becoming popular. Especially, you know, you take these reality shows, you know, like the chance to become famous
Yeah.
for doing nothing.
Mm. It's true.
It's like you just don't have any skills and suddenly you're famous.
But people
Project-
get sucked into watching it. I mean, I'm a bit of a sucker for that as well. I have been in the past for it, but I realise now that it doesn't really interest me as much, you know.
But popularity, you know, like it's obviously to be popular, to be liked.
mm,
We all are kind of programmed to want to kind of be liked. You know, if you don't hang out with people you don't like, do you? I mean, that's not,
exactly.
so. Yeah, but I think it must be absolute torment in today's world.
For younger kids, for younger children, yeah, I think it
Oh, yeah,
is.
especially for girls, you know, like, oh, what you done with your hair, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, your face looks big wearing that, or
Yeah.
what? Oh, have you done something to
You
your
don't
nose?
look perfect.
And like they all go around like this, or oh, your ears are big, you know, they're like, you know, like what was you like? You can't see my ears now, you know, like, so you don't know if they're big. But I can imagine how that could really impact the happiness of people who are in their teenage years.
Oh, definitely, definitely,
So
definitely.
while I was listening, I was thinking, okay, it seems to me, because Chris, you had the skills, you had the confidence that you didn't have to go and crave. You didn't need that. You didn't find yourself in a position to crave to be popular and look for it and be attracted to it. You just had it because you kind of had your self-confidence and skill. So at some point, it seems that we lose that self-confidence and the love for ourselves. So we lose that feeling that we're worthy of anything, or and then we need to find that we can't find it inside of ourselves. So we are looking for it from an external source.
Yeah.
And because we are social creatures, we will want to have this coming from the outside. So who are the people? Well, it could be our parents, but we can't just say, oh, like my picture, like this, or it doesn't work like this, because they're the parents. They seem, if we think about it being a bigger and a younger person, there's a bit of a difference in level. So you're going to be going and looking for that popularity and feeding your self-esteem from your peers. So from this level, when it probably wasn't really done well by the parents when you were little. I'm not saying parents are horrible. I'm just saying that they probably weren't aware themselves. And so we're creating these kids. And I was just recently on a Tony Robbins challenge, and he was talking about relationships and especially about children. We are creating, because the generation and a half before, they didn't have, that they felt that their parents didn't give them enough love because they were busy with, after the war, whatever. Now the pendulum has swung into the other direction, where parents are doing everything for their kids, giving them everything they want, everything that they didn't have themselves. It's just because they think that that's how it should be. But what we are creating, and he was just laughing at it, he says we are creating children who get a trophy for participation. What's that about? And then they go out in the world and they think that it's like, oh, I'm gonna want to get something from this relationship, I'm gonna get something from that relationship. Oh boy, what is it for me? And craving this to be given, to get stuff off the environment, the society, their friends, then, you know, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's just interesting how when you haven't got enough of this within you, believing in yourself and trusting yourself that you can do stuff and you're good enough as you are, you will be finding sources to fill it in, that little gap within you, maybe little, maybe big, I don't know, from outside sources. So
Jessie, can I ask you a question? So how was it for you at school, and to do with popularity and wanting people to like you? How was it for you?
Yeah, I had a similar situation like Chris, where I didn't have any problem with any if anybody was choosing teams, I was going to be chosen quite at the beginning. What I had a problem with was I could do everything easily and quickly in terms of like learning your lessons and, you know, all this academia. I had no problem with that. I didn't have any problems socially either, like your guy, Chris, in your example. My problem was because anybody else, all my friends struggled with learning. And this way I was feeling that I was alienating myself from them. So I had to kind of dumb myself down and play small so that they won't be upset. So I had for a long time, oh yeah, look, we have a test and I get my full marks, and they get like, in our case, it was a 6 was the top, and then 2 was like fail. And they will have a 3.5 and a 4 and a 4.5 if they were lucky, and then there would be the occasional 5, and I was always with the 6s. And whenever we had these results back, they will be like crying their eyes out. Oh, good. And I'm thinking, no, look, I actually did a mistake, made a mistake over here. Look, it's not that good. It's not that, I'm not that good. No, I just was lucky. I was just lucky. And this just carried on. So that they wouldn't be upset, I was playing myself small too, like, until very recently, actually. So my strive to be popular was to make myself small.
Okay, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Otis, I want to hear your story.
Well, I wrote down a bunch of notes because I think it's interesting, because there's like a couple of different things that happen. But to start with, kind of, I guess, my story. So when I grew up and I went through school, was sort of like I remember being in the classrooms when there was a migration from MySpace to Facebook. You know, that was at the.
Gosh, I remember that.
We were properly in school, going to class. People were asking the question like, "Oh, are you on Facebook? Have you gone from Facebook to from MySpace yet?" And you'd be like, "Oh no, like I'm not doing that yet." And I remember being a delayed kind of person on it. I didn't get on it straight off the bat. But I think I missed the kind of I remember still being able to walk home from school and segregate myself away from what was happening at the school thing. So I think there still was a sort of a guise of like the day ending, and then you didn't come back to it until the following day. And Facebook and MySpace in the early iterations were a matter of sort of uploading pictures from events that kind of happened, and there wasn't this kind of like continual desire to get likes and that sort of comparison stuff that came out of it early on. But I do remember, you know, I've always been tall, and I think that this is sort of like comes down to my first point, and I kind of tried to fit in by shrinking my shoulders and by not not being confident and forthright and accepting, like Desi said, of who I am and what I am, and the way that I look, there's nothing that I can really do about it. You're born, you look the way you are. You have to accept it. You have to love it, because there's nothing else that you can do about it. So that's sort of like one element of it. And I think that as you get older, you sort of learn to love yourself, and you learn to accept yourself, and you recognize that there's nothing that you can do about it, and you don't let people's comments, it's like water off of a duck's back. You don't let them take hold or affect your mental health, or at least you try to prohibit it as in so much, because, as I say, there's nothing you can do about it. So there's sort of like that level of accepting of who you are, and you're not striving for perfection in that regard. The other side of it is the
there. Just jump in. A lot of people's don't get to the point that you've got to, which is accepting who they are.
Yeah.
That's a fairly mature view.
Very good answer.
But there's a lot of people that struggle with just coming to terms with that out there. And I suspect there's a lot of people out there that just carry on in their lives after school doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a heck of a. I think it's sort of, in my mind, it separates. You've got kind of like the aesthetics. You've got like the visual things, and I think that in this world that we live in right now, which is very based off of that frivolous, on the face of it, what's the word? It's sort of like superficial. Yeah, superficial. And it's like how many likes you get is what your value is. And that's all sort of like based on looks. And we went through the size 0 models, and people striving to lose weight and look that way and look the way that there are in magazines, and all of this sort of stuff has all transpired, and that's led to a mentality. And the mentality is that that's the way you get accepted in society, and that's all aesthetics. That's all on the face of it, right? Then you've got how that carries forward in how you get accepted as you go into the adult life, in what Desi's talking about, which is playing small, or not talking about things in certain ways because it makes other people feel uncomfortable, or you fulfill a role for somebody and people want you to carry on fulfilling that role. So if you're looking to grow, or you're looking to change, or you're looking to adapt or do things differently, people don't want you to do that because you're fulfilling a role for them. So there's conditions on that friendship, as it were, or there's conditions on that relationship in which you feel uncomfortable moving away from that because you're going to upset someone, which is where the people pleasing comes into it, which is where that starts at a younger age, because we're in this mode of trying to be liked, and ultimately, that's where I think there's a separation. There's a sense of like trying to be liked and conducting yourself in a way that gets you likes or being liked. You're trying to accommodate for everyone no matter where they are, and you can't realistically do that because you end up just doing your head in. And then the other side of it is sort of like accepting who you are and what you are, and the way that you look, the way that you feel, and all of that, which is, I think, slightly different, but equally as important.
But like it's an interesting point, because like when so the desire to be liked is stroking endorphins. Someone likes me, I feel good about that because I'm worthy of being liked or loved or whatever it happens to be. But if you've got, I don't know, 10 friends, for example, it's likely that those 10 friends in today's modern world know each other. Now, going back to when I was young, my table tennis fraternity didn't know any of my drinking buddies, who didn't know any of my old school friends. They were distinct networks, independent of each other. And I could be, if I wanted to or chose to be, different in each of those spaces. I remember seeing someone who was in my table tennis fraternity in Watford walking down the street, and I walked straight past them because I didn't see him in a tracksuit. I didn't recognise you without your tracksuit because I only ever saw them in a tracksuit.
Yeah.
So, you know, but then what happens is today, all of those networks are meshed together. Somehow they get to know each other because they're on your friends list and all this. And then you can't say a thing without anybody else hearing whatever's going on. And what happens is out of 10 friends that you may have, 5 of them don't like the other 5. So what happens is you start saying something nice, liking some stuff, making a nice comment on someone's wall, only to piss off 5 others. Who don't like that person. What are you doing? What are you doing commenting so like, why aren't you commenting on my post like that then? And now you're into a full-scale war for no bloody cause of your own. You know, you're just like, what? Oh no. So you're having a bad day. The migraine comes on. Ooh.
You're starting to have this competition, you know. Oh, I'm gonna do this better next time. I'm gonna.
Now you're having a bad day, and now you're walking on eggshells. You can't actually operate or be yourself because of this quagmire of people that are having problems because you like somebody else.
I think that's where they say you end up building a prison, and the bars are made out of the expectations of others, and you end up bringing yourself into a mode of apathy and not doing one thing or the other because you're fearful of, you know,
pissing anybody off
or putting somebody off. Yeah.
So you stop commenting, you stop doing things, you just end up drifting along, neither happy nor sad. But you know, it's a tough gig.
What about you then, Elle? What's yours?
Was it for you? Yeah, I was gonna say the same.
So basically, in school, I didn't really go to learn. That's being honest. I went just to see my friends, and it was all about being popular for me. You know, I always had when I was smaller, my nose was a lot bigger than it is now, even though it's still a big nose. But I used to always turn to people like facewards in class, or I'd be like this, holding my hands if someone was talking to me, because my nose looked so big. And there was only like 1 or 2 people that had noticed it in the whole of my school life, but that affected me massively throughout my whole entire life of school. You know, and it was all about the makeup, you know, but I wasn't a confident person at all. I was very, very low self-esteem. I was scared of everything. There was only one thing I was good at school was PE. I absolutely loved PE. I wasn't afraid of that at all. But everything else I struggled on. But that's because really I chose not to learn and just mess around. So it was partly my fault. I do now. I love to learn now at this age, and I've done lots of courses and I really enjoy learning. But back then, it didn't interest me at all. So for me, it was all about, you know, I mean, the good thing is we didn't have social media. So if anything did bad happen that day in school or anything, you know, we could go home and there was no dramas or stress at home. You could just go home and not have to look on the, you know, we had the internet, but it wasn't like it is now. So, you know, it was very different worlds. But we had the magazines, you know, it's like the magazines for girls. We used to have like teenage magazines, and Mum used to buy one every week for me. And it always had like the models in there looking beautiful, everything. So us girls followed that. Me and my group of friends, we followed that. And it was all about looking and following what we thought was good and meant to be. So, but now I will say I'm not doing that. I have my own fashion. I have my own way of doing things. I don't follow the crowd. And I just have I have a small group of friends, and I just enjoy life. And I'm trying not to follow the stereotypical world as it is. You know, I do sometimes. I'm a little bit of a sucker. If I put something up on Facebook and I get a few likes, I'm like, oh, I got loads of likes. But then I think, but I don't really. Why am I caring about that? But sometimes sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
No, we all have that little bit of, we do still want people to like us, you know, but it's just more limited now for me anyway. I don't obsess over who likes me and who doesn't. I'm not really fussed in that way. If you like me, I like you, we're going to be friends. But if you don't, it's okay. We just won't be in each other's lives. It's simple as that, you know. But I'll always be there for people and all this kind of thing, you know, but sometimes it just doesn't work out, does it? So yeah.
So could we have some maybe advice or as a conclusion from
the reason why I want this is a good topic to talk about, and yes, Desi, thank you for saying that as well. The reason for this is just really guidance to any age group, but I would think this would more go with teenagers and young adults in their 20s, just to kind of like reflect on what has been spoken about today, and kind of, you know, we're all in different age groups, us four, and I think that, you know, you don't need to worry so much about how liked you are. You can do what you want to do, achieve what you want to achieve. You don't need to have the other people say how good you are to be as good as you can be. You can do that on your own. You can achieve anything by yourself. You don't need anyone to tell you any different. If you want to do it, you go and do it. And that's all I can give my advice for that, because, you know, I mean, is there any other advice I can give, guys?
Yeah, I think that's a good one. It's sort of acceptance of self. It's knowing your own worth. It's not seeking external validation in or before you want to do something. But you know, it's harder said than done. I think that's one of the things when you're younger. You know, I've got my dad here, who was giving me books like Unlimited Power and Rich Dad Poor Dad and the likes. And I remember being in tech class at school when I was reading those kind of books. They didn't make a lot of sense to me then, and I couldn't put, you know, I didn't have enough life experience, right? So, you know, there's almost a part of this is looking at it and going, you are where you are, and, you know, to accept and love that's the place that you are in your specific part of your journey. And there's lots more to cut. There's lots more to come, and you'll carry on learning. You know, be open-minded, be aware, be conscious, sit with the emotions that come up, sit with the feelings that rise in you, and try and unpack them a little bit if you can, and just carry on with that awareness, because I think awareness is key. And
definitely,
yeah,
fantastic, Otis. Love that.
We're living in a really difficult time, and I think young people today who are having their school messed about and their qualifications played with, and where everyone's been told that their qualifications are really important and that the rest of their life is going to be either successful or unsuccessful based on their results and their exams, I think is not helpful at all. But and you can see that the increase in suicides of young people, you know, that explains how really difficult it must be, because to pay the ultimate price for maybe some kind of crappy remark on Facebook is like, we probably, the four of us, don't understand the gravity of this situation. And it's really easy to sit here and say what you need to do is become, you know, more self-aware and not worry so much about what other people say. Well, you can imagine what if someone said your nose was big, I don't know, in a picture on Facebook when you were at school, and everybody, all your friends saw it, and were like smiley face, laughing, like every icon is another nail in the coffin, so to speak, right? Yeah, because, you know, like as you say, you know, like when you're relying on other people to feed into you how you feel about yourself, you have no control over it. So for all those people out there that are self-harming, you know, because self-harming is a measure of control. I can do this to myself. No one can stop me. It's my thought, what I'm doing for myself. And I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I can imagine that level of control being really powerful. And of course, to kill oneself is the ultimate level of control. I can finish it here and now myself. But when you're giving your power away to somebody else to then feed back to you how you feel about yourself by listening to what they have to say, it's like, it's not, you can't control it. So if you want to have a normal, like, so when you're relying on other people's comments, it's like life's like this. It's like one day you're euphoric, the next day you're in the pits of hell, and you have no control over it. It's like because you're giving your power to the other people, they are in control of how you feel. That's it, period. When you start to take back control and you start to form your own views, positive, hopefully, about yourself, then it doesn't matter what the others say. So life becomes, it can have its ups and downs. Of course, we all do that, but at least you're in control of it.
Yeah.
And I think with you, Eleanor, that has got to be probably the most significant change in the last 3 years.
Gosh.
Is you are now no longer subject to the vagaries of other people's views.
Yeah, definitely. It's taken the last 3 years to accept who I am, and for me, and not worry about what others say. And don't get me wrong, sometimes comments can come out, and I read it, but then I go, I actually don't care anymore. I really don't. I just think, because I know that I'm okay and I'm doing okay. And so as long as I know that, then it doesn't matter, and that's what I want to spread across to everybody else out there that is feeling that they're being judged by others all the time, that they just don't, because you are who you are, and stick with that, and you achieve and do what you need to do. It is the best. And when you accept yourself, it's the best feeling in the world. Nothing can stop you. And we'll all get to that accepting ourselves in our own way, in our time, and when we're ready. But to have people to say to you to try and accept yourself it's going to give them a little boost anyway. So it's good to talk about these things, because there's a lot of people that are afraid to do things. And personally, me, I was afraid to even do this video with you guys. I've been umming and ahhing about doing it for over a year, and I've only just done it now, because I was so scared of speaking out on camera. It was my worst fear, but I knew that to overcome and to grow in working in mental health in the future, and to help others, I need to push myself. So this is exactly what I've done. So
in a way, this self-acceptance is the opposite to the pull to or the attraction of popularity. When you become less concerned about being popular and more concerned about loving yourself and being your own best friend, then this pull of popularity kind of dissipates. It just goes gone.
Yep.
Yeah, I did actually have another note down, but I think that because in a way, when you're at school, and maybe this happens in the earlier years, but as you're going through the motions of learning how to be sort of an upstanding citizen, you could say, you have to go through the trials and tribulations of people liking or disliking you in any circumstance. And you have to do things in order to see what the response is, to then look at your own behavior and go, well, do I want to act in that way? So if you're going around and you're being a knob, right, you're probably going to get a lot of people come back at you and like not like you very much. And that's a good case and example to say, don't be a knob. So
if that's what you want,
so
in which case,
maybe somebody's highest purpose being an off.
So I think there's an acceptance of self, but it's not to the testament of like being able to just going around being a daft you know, Muppet or whatever. It's like you learn that as you're going through it, but it's almost about not, when you've got past that stage, it's not worrying, as we've covered, you know, not worrying about what other people think of you and what your thoughts are.
Well,
and
it's
what your
feedback,
opinions
isn't it? What you're saying is that interaction with other human beings, it gives you feedback, and
Yeah.
you can
Of course, yeah.
reflect on that and say, is this comment, and I mentioned this to you years ago, is this comment or what they're asking me to do more for them than it is for me?
Mm.
I think, you know, you have to take what people say and evaluate it and say, yeah, would I take advice for this people? If the answer is no, it's like, well, what the heck am I listening to their criticism for then?
And always ask why
Yeah.
someone said something. Yeah.
Yeah, always ask the
You only
why.
get that through experience. So yeah, you're right.
Definitely. No, that's very good. I like that. Very good. So is there anything else anyone wants to say? Or
Let's see.
do you think we've
No, that's yeah.
looked that up? Yeah, I think we've
Just one
It's-
thing I will say, I think I'm the only one that went to an all boys school.
Oh yeah, you did, yeah.
Now, it's a double-edged sword, that, right? But one thing's for sure, you don't get involved in the girlfriend boyfriend relationships debacle that I know goes on in mixed schools, right? Now, the second, on the other side, you don't get to experience all of that young love and interaction with the opposite sex, if that's your thing. But it certainly helped to focus attention, and it's certainly, because it was a boys' school, it's like there wasn't really any of that stuff to think about. So you just got on, you know, like I don't even remember anybody having a girlfriend at school because it's just it didn't even come up in the conversation.
Because you go home, as you said, you go home and that was it, the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even think about that, Dad, actually. You saying that now that you did, you went to an all boys school. So we had all that, you know, boyfriends, girlfriends, and
who's sleeping with who and all this stuff.
yeah.
Oh, no, we don't.
Well, I don't think.
I'm not talking about primary school here.
Well, that's the thing. I think it does come into it, doesn't it?
Thing.
Yeah, who's texting who? Are there, you know, and then you get you know, this is one of the things that used to come up, and like we used to, I can't remember when we used to say it, but like, you know, you can see this in movies as well, where two guys like the same girl and they go, oh, Michael dibs, and then suddenly, well, there's an argument between the two guys because they both like the same girl, and it's like, what's going on there?
Well, I say that I think is, you know, it just puts fuel on the fire.
That's actually
guys going around thinking, hey, you know, I can pull anyone I want, and there's the girls going around saying I can get any guy I want.
Yeah.
And there's those that say, well, I'm not that attractive, so I can't do that, and I'm jealous of those people that can.
That's it. You just get programmed from a young age. And I remember and I only realized this recently, that I had this idea in my head, this message from my very early school days, that whichever boy I liked, they liked my best friend, and the boy that liked me, I didn't like. So there was this confusion in my head about what's going on with these boys and men. It's like the ones I like, they don't like me, they'll prefer someone else, so I didn't even bother with them. And the ones who like me, I didn't like. So confusion. And then also there was this other thing, because I was the tallest person in the class. All the boys were kind of smaller, even the ones that
yes, the boys were small when I was a teenager.
And they used to call me all sorts of names. I don't know why, they had their reasons, but I really didn't like it when we had to line up, and when we lined up, it was in height order, so I was always at the front. And you know, for me, who wanted to please everybody and to play small, that was difficult, because I was right at the front of the line, like being the tallest, and then that started to kind of get into my stoopy kind of shoulders, and
you probably started to say things like a belief system all the people I like don't like me, and all the people that like me I don't even know because I don't like them. So the systems is no one like. So what happens is no one likes me because you didn't even meet the ones that did, and all the ones that you liked, you felt rejection. So basically, it cut you back, and like that is life changing. That belief, oh, this
I
is how
believe is
this is how it is because
Mm.
it's your experience, and of course, it's not like that at all. But you start to believe your
but you
own.
just because you have these a few counted experiences of this is how it was, and then you start to generalize. Your brain, that's what it does, generalizes and creates these patterns, and then wants to keep you safe then after that, because this is what happened. Don't do this again, because you're going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to be, you know, destructive. So don't do that. It's this way.
Yeah, very good.
I think the last thing I'll say is just communicating is good for these kind of things, and reaching out to people that perhaps can talk about it in the way that we're talking about it, which is why it's so important to have groups like this, and to contribute to them, because often I think you can think that your own situation is so unique and solitary and that only you are suffering from it. And actually, when you start sharing and you start realizing that, you know, everybody's kind of gone through it in one way, shape or form. And it's just really good to communicate it and get it out there.
And this is why things like Alcoholics Anonymous are so powerful, because you know, you go along. I've never been to one, but I've heard stories from people who I respect that they see people go along, and the first 3 times they're in denial and they won't even join in. They sit at the back and say, "This bunch of people are a load of crazies. You know, they're just alcoholics."
Yeah.
And then on the 4th or 5th time, they go, "I'm alcoholic."
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is,
I think they realise that their example is not special and unique. It's normal for people who go to these groups.
Completely. But the hardest thing is admitting it.
Yeah.
Once you've admitted, then you're okay. But yeah, okay then, guys. I think that's good. I think that, you know, like it'd be nice to hear other people's stories when we put this out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How was your popularity?
And much love.
And how is it affected you in your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll wrap it up there then, because I've got the stop recording
Much
button.
love, guys.
Yeah. See you later, everyone.
Bye.